I was zipping up the last of her Louis Vuitton luggage, the one she bought with our joint account 3 weeks ago, when my phone buzzed with her text. "Working late again, babe. Don't wait up." Except I knew she wasn't at the hospital. She was at Maestro's Steakhouse, meeting her boyfriend's parents. And in exactly 47 minutes, she was going to walk into a house that was no longer hers. If you've got some time and maybe something to drink, settle in. This one's a ride. So why did I wait 8 weeks to blow up my marriage when I knew the truth after week 1? Because 24 hours ago, I thought my wife Amanda and I were solid. We'd been together 12 years, 8 dating, 4 married. We were college sweethearts, the couple everyone said would make it. And I believed that right up until I didn't. This is the story of how the woman who told me every single day that I was her whole world systematically planned her exit, while gaslighting me into thinking I was crazy for noticing. And it's the story of how I made sure that when she walked out that door, she left with nothing but the truth she'd been running from. Let me start at the beginning, because you need to understand what I thought I had before I can explain what I lost. I met Amanda in the fall of 2013 at the University of Oregon. I was 23, computer science major, the kind of guy who spent more time with code than people. She was nursing school, one of those people who just lit up a room. We met at a coffee shop near campus. She was studying at the table next to mine, and when her laptop died, I offered her my charger. We ended up talking for 5 hours. She had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the world. When she laughed, she'd touch your arm, and suddenly you felt like the funniest person alive. I knew pretty fast that she was it for me. We graduated together in 2015 and moved to Portland. Those early years were the kind of struggle that bonds people together, or at least I thought so. Student loans, a tiny apartment with neighbors who fought at 2 in the morning, both of us working entry-level jobs and eating ramen more nights than not. But we had each other, and back then, that felt like enough. I worked my way up to senior software engineer at a decent tech company. Amanda became an ICU nurse at one of the big hospitals downtown. Good jobs, stable income, the kind of life we'd dreamed about during those broke college years. We got married in the fall of 2021. Small backyard ceremony, just family and close friends. We'd planned it for 2020, but the pandemic pushed everything back. I remember thinking on our wedding day that I was the luckiest guy alive. We didn't have kids yet. Amanda always said we should wait until we were more financially stable, maybe buy a house first. I agreed. We had time, or so I thought. Our life had a rhythm to it. Weeknight dinners where we'd tell each other about our days. Weekend hikes in the gorge. Tuesday nights at the pub down the street for trivia with a group of friends we'd collected over the years. Small things, normal things, the kind of things you don't appreciate until they're gone. We had this tradition, sticky notes. She'd leave them around the house. On the bathroom mirror, in my lunch bag, on my laptop, little messages. You make every day better. Or love you more than coffee, and that's saying something. I saved some of them in a drawer. Looking back now, I wonder if she meant any of it, or if I was just a placeholder until something better came along. The cracks started forming about 10 months ago, early 2024. Amanda picked up more shifts at the hospital. We need to save for a house down payment, she'd say. Made sense to me. Portland real estate is brutal. But with the extra hours came distance. She'd come home exhausted, barely wanting to talk. Our sex life dropped off a cliff. I'm just so tired, Chris. 12-hour shifts, you know. I knew. I was supportive. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You give them space when they need it. She started working out more, buying new clothes. When I mentioned she seemed happier, she got defensive. What's that supposed to mean? You don't trust me? I backpedaled fast. No, I'm just glad you're taking care of yourself. But that was the first time I felt it. That little twist in my gut that something was off. By fall, the pattern was clear. Any question about her schedule, any innocent comment about her phone usage, and she'd flip it around on me. We'd be having dinner and she'd be texting and I'd ask who she was talking to. And she'd say, "You're being paranoid, Chris. This is why I don't tell you about work drama." And the thing is, I believed her. I started thinking, maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was being insecure. She'd pat my hand and say, "I'd never leave you. You're my whole world." And I'd feel guilty for even questioning her. If you've ever been gaslighted, you know what I mean. It's not one big lie. It's 1,000 small ones that make you doubt your own reality. Early January, she mentioned Valentine's Day. "I'm probably working that night, babe. You know how it is." I was disappointed but understanding. Healthcare doesn't stop for holidays. She kissed my forehead. "But you're my Valentine every day." I believed that too. I had no idea that would be the last time I believed a word she said. It was a Sunday morning in early January when everything changed. Amanda was in the shower and her iPad was on the kitchen counter. It buzzed, just a notification preview on the lock screen. I glanced over without thinking. The message was from someone named Brandon Cherbra, and the preview said, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that dress My stomach dropped. I didn't open it. Some part of me still wanted to respect her privacy, still wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation. But when Amanda came out of the shower, I asked casually, "Hey, who's Brandon?" She didn't even hesitate. "Oh, a colleague from the hospital. Why?" Just saw a text notification. Her face changed. Not guilty. Angry. "You're checking my messages now." Jesus, Chris, this is getting ridiculous. She grabbed the iPad and walked into the bedroom, leaving me standing in the kitchen feeling like I'd done something wrong. But that feeling in my gut didn't go away. It got worse. 2 days later, I was reviewing our finances. I handle our budget. Nothing controlling about it, just something I'm good at and Amanda hates doing. That's when I saw them. Transfers from our joint savings to an account I didn't recognize. $3,200, then $1,800, then another $2,500, all labeled personal. I showed her the statement that night. "Hey, what's this account you're transferring to?" She barely looked up from her phone. "It's my savings account, Chris. I'm allowed to have my own money. We agreed to keep everything joint. You're being controlling. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm an adult." And then she went to the bedroom and shut the door. I sat on the couch alone for a long time that night. Something was deeply wrong, but every time I tried to address it, she made me feel like I was the problem. Like I was paranoid, insecure, controlling. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to my wife and felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. Around 2 in the morning, I grabbed my phone and started Googling. Wife suddenly defensive about phone. Spouse transferring money secretly. Down the rabbit hole I went. Reddit posts, forums, infidelity survival websites. I read hundreds of stories, and they all had the same patterns. The defensiveness, the gaslighting, the "you're just insecure" accusations. The phone always face down, the sudden interest in appearance. The extra work hours. One post stuck with me. Trust your gut. If something feels off, investigate quietly. Don't confront until you have proof. That's when I made the decision. I was going to find out the truth. I found a local private investigator through careful research. Gary Mitchell, ironically. Same last name as the Brandon from Amanda's texts, which would turn out to be even more ironic later. His office was small, professional, discreet. I sat across from him and said the words that made it all real. "I think my wife is cheating on me." Gary was probably in his 50s, the kind of guy who'd seen everything and showed no judgment. "Tell me what you know." I laid it out, the texts, the money transfers, the defensiveness, all of it. He nodded. "I can get you the truth. Good or bad, it'll cost $3,500 for the retainer." I had a work bonus I'd kept in my personal account. Money Amanda didn't know about. I paid him on the spot. "Give me a week," Gary said. That week was the longest of my life. I went to work, came home, had dinner with Amanda, went to bed next to her, all while this investigation was happening. I had to act normal. Every time she touched me, every time she said she loved me, I wanted to scream. But I kept it together. Gary called me on day 8. "You need to see this." His office, afternoon January light filtering through the blinds. He spread photos across his desk. Amanda's car at an upscale condo building, not the hospital. Timestamps, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., multiple nights across the past week. More photos, Amanda and a man at a restaurant holding hands across the table, kissing in his car in a parking garage. License plate cross-reference says the condo belongs to Brandon Mitchell, 38, real estate developer. I stared at the photos. That was my wife of 4 years, the woman who'd promised to love me forever, kissing another man. Gary's voice was gentle. "I can get more evidence if you need it for divorce proceedings." My voice didn't sound like mine. "Get everything." I drove home that night on autopilot. Amanda was there, coming out of the bedroom in her scrubs. "Hey babe, long shift, I'm exhausted." She kissed my cheek. Every instinct in me wanted to confront her right then, to throw the photos in her face and demand answers. But I remembered that Reddit post, "Don't tip her off, document everything." So I hugged her. "Get some rest." She smiled at me. "You're the best." And then she said it. That phrase I'd heard 100 times. "I'd never leave you. You're my whole world." I lay in bed that night while she slept next to me, and I replayed that sentence over and over. "I'd never leave you." But she already had, hadn't she? She'd left months ago. I was just the last one to know. That was the moment I decided. If she wanted to play games, I'd play better. Over the next 3 weeks, Gary assembled a comprehensive file. The affair had been going on for 7 months. It started in July of last year. Brandon had been a patient in Amanda's ICU after a car accident. She'd been his nurse. They'd exchanged numbers before he was discharged in mid-August, supposedly to check on his recovery. The first confirmed date was late August. Dinner at a place downtown. 7 months. While I was being the supportive husband, she was building a whole other life. The evidence was extensive. 47 nights at his condo. Weekend trips to the coast that she'd told me were girls' weekends with her friend Rachel. Expensive gifts, that Louis Vuitton bag, jewelry I'd seen her wearing that she said she'd bought for herself. All from him. But the worst part was the text messages. Gary had a tech specialist who could pull data from cloud backups if you had the right access. Amanda used our shared Apple ID for iCloud. She'd never bothered changing it. The messages were all there. Amanda to Brandon. "He has no idea. He's so naive." Amanda to Brandon. "I'll be free soon. Just need to time it right." Brandon to Amanda. "Can't wait to wake up next to you every day." I read every message 3 times. Each one was a knife. The financial audit showed she'd opened a secret account 5 months ago and had transferred $18,400 total from our joint savings, money I'd contributed, to just as much as she had. And then Gary found the worst part. Amanda had visited a divorce attorney 6 weeks prior, a woman named Julia Brennan, known for aggressive tactics in high-conflict divorces. Through a contact, Gary learned what Amanda had told her attorney. She was building a case that I was emotionally abusive and controlling, that I monitored her phone, questioned her whereabouts constantly, made her feel trapped. She'd searched how to prove emotional abuse in divorce on her phone. All lies, all calculated, all designed to make sure that when she left, she'd get the better settlement, and I'd be left looking like the bad guy. I sat in my car in an empty parking lot after reading that file, and I broke. I'm talking full breakdown, gasping, sobbing, the kind of crying I hadn't done since my dad's funeral 8 years ago. My chest felt like it was caving in. I couldn't breathe right. Every time I tried to inhale, it came out as this shuddering gasp. Our entire relationship, 12 years, felt like a lie. I thought about our first date, that 5-hour conversation in the coffee shop. Had she been calculating even then? Looking at me and seeing, what? Stability, a safety net, someone who'd never question her. I thought about our wedding day, standing at the altar, looking into her eyes, believing every word of her vows. In sickness and in health, for better or worse. Had any of it been real, or was I just a character in a story she was telling herself, until a better plot came along? The sticky notes. God, the sticky notes. You make every day better. Love you more than coffee. I'd saved them in a drawer like they were precious things. And maybe to her they were just maintenance. Keep the nice guy happy. Keep the backup plan secure. Did she laugh about me with Brandon? Did she tell him how naive I was, how easy I was to fool? I pictured them in his bed, in his expensive condo that I couldn't afford, laughing about how I believed her when she said she was working late. 7 months. 7 months of lies, of sleeping next to her while she was living a double life. How many times had she come home from being with him and kissed me goodnight? How many times had she told me she loved me with his cologne still on her clothes? The worst part, the absolute worst part, was the false abuse claims. She was going to tell people I was controlling, abusive, me, the guy who'd supported every decision she'd ever made. The guy who'd never raised his voice at her, never questioned her autonomy, never did anything but try to be the husband she said she wanted. She was going to destroy my reputation, make people think I was the kind of man who hurts women. And why? For what? A better settlement? To ease her own guilt, to paint herself as the victim when she was the one wielding the knife. I sat there for 2 hours. Cars came and went in the parking lot. I watched families, couples, people living their normal lives, and I sat in mine, feeling like the ground had opened up beneath me. Then something shifted. It was like a switch flipped. The grief crystallized into something colder, harder. The tears stopped. My breathing evened out. My hands stopped shaking. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red, face blotchy. I looked like hell, but behind that, I saw something else. Something I hadn't seen in months. Clarity. She'd played me. For 7 months she'd played me. Made me doubt my own reality. Called me paranoid when I noticed the truth. Gaslit me into thinking I was the problem. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd assumed I'd never find out. She'd assumed I'd stay the nice guy forever. She'd assumed I was too weak to fight back. She was about to learn how wrong she was. I called Gary. Keep the surveillance going, and I need a recommendation for a divorce attorney. Already have one for you, Gary said. Robert Hayes. No relation to you, funny coincidence, but he's the best I know. I met with Robert 2 days later. He was maybe 40, sharp eyes, the kind of guy who'd seen every trick in the book. I showed him everything, all of Gary's evidence. The timeline, the texts, the financial records, the meeting with Julia Brennan. Robert studied it all and then looked up at me. This is gold. Her attorney is building a narrative based on lies, and you have proof that contradicts every word of it. What do? We file first. Element of surprise. Include all evidence of the affair, the financial misconduct. We countersue for defamation based on her false statements to her attorney. We request return of all transferred funds plus her share of attorney fees since she committed fraud. Can we do that? With this evidence? Absolutely. He leaned forward. But here's what I need you to do. Don't confront her. Don't tip her off. We prepare everything quietly, and when we're ready, we serve her. One shot, no warning. When? That depends. When do you want this to happen? I thought about it. Valentine's Day was 3 weeks away. The day she'd told me she was working late. The day that, according to Gary's latest surveillance, she'd made a reservation at Maestro's Steakhouse for 6 people. Amanda, Brandon, and his family. She was meeting his parents. This was serious for her. This was her next step. Valentine's Day, I said. We serve her on Valentine's Day. Robert smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I like how you think. The next 3 weeks were the longest performance of my life. I had to act like everything was normal. Wake up next to her. Have coffee together. Ask about her day. Tell her about mine. All while knowing exactly what she was doing when she said she was working late. Every morning, I'd watch her get ready for work. She'd put on her scrubs, tie her hair back, check her phone. Normal routine. Except now I knew she was texting him, planning her next lie, coordinating her next meetup. She'd kiss me goodbye. Have a good day, babe. You too. And I'd stand there after the door closed, wondering how she did it. How did she compartmentalize so completely? Was there any guilt at all? Any moment where she looked at me and thought about what she was doing? I secured all our assets legally, methodically. Opened a new personal checking account at a different bank. Called HR, redirected my paycheck. That would happen automatically with the next pay period. Contacted our bank and froze the joint savings account. Our agreement required both signatures for withdrawals anyway, but I wanted to make sure she couldn't drain it before I filed. Closed our joint credit card after paying off the balance. I didn't want her charging things to my account once this blew up. Moved important documents. Birth certificate, passport, property deed copies, our wedding certificate, ironically, to a safety deposit box she didn't have access to. All of this quietly, carefully, over the course of a week. I did it during work hours when I knew she was at the hospital. I kept my tone casual when I talked to bank representatives, HR people, lawyers, just tying up some loose ends. Nothing to see here. Amanda never noticed. She was too busy planning her future with Brandon, too distracted by her double life to notice that her husband was quietly building a fortress around everything she thought she'd take. Robert suggested I try to get her on tape admitting something. The affair, the false claims, anything. Oregon is a one-party consent state, he explained. You can record conversations you're part of without her knowledge. Anything you capture is admissible. I bought a small voice-activated recorder. Felt like a spy. Felt ridiculous. But I needed every piece of ammunition I could get. One night at dinner, about 2.5 weeks before Valentine's Day, I tried. My hands were sweating as I pressed the button in my pocket, activating the device. I've been thinking, I said, keeping my voice casual. Maybe we should see a couples therapist. Amanda looked up from her phone, irritated. Why? Because you're insecure? I just feel like we're distant lately. That's because you're always questioning me, Chris. Her voice had that edge to it. You're paranoid. This is exactly what I told. She stopped herself, caught the slip. I kept my face neutral. Told who? Nobody. Just... She waved her hand dismissively. You need to work on your trust issues. Got it. On tape. The slip where she almost mentioned her attorney. The accusation of paranoia. The deflection of blame. A few nights later, I tried again. We were in bed. She was scrolling through her phone, that blue light illuminating her face in the dark. Do you still love me? I asked. She didn't even look up. Of course, I'd never leave you. You're my whole world. Said with the same tone you'd use to confirm you'll pick up milk at the store. Automatic. Meaningless. The recorder caught it all. I researched the hospital's ethics policies late at night when Amanda was asleep. Romantic relationships between nurses and former patients weren't explicitly forbidden in the handbook, but there was a clause about professional boundaries and conflicts of interest. If the relationship began while Brandon was under her care, even if it was just exchanging numbers, just the initial flirtation, that crossed the line. Brandon had been in the ICU in July, discharged mid-August. Their first confirmed date was late August, same month. The timeline was too close to be innocent. At minimum, it would raise questions. At best, it would trigger an investigation that would tarnish her reputation, even if they couldn't prove anything definitively. I prepared a formal complaint, printed out everything: photos, text messages, timeline, hospital patient records that Gary had obtained through his contacts, a cover letter laying out the sequence of events and requesting a formal ethics review. It would be filed the day after I served her. I wanted the divorce papers to land first, let her be scrambling, overwhelmed, defensive, then hit her with the workplace investigation. Keep her off balance, don't give her time to craft narratives. Gary continued surveillance on Brandon, too. That's when we learned some interesting things. Brandon wasn't nearly as wealthy as his lifestyle suggested. His recent divorce had cost him significant assets. He'd kept the fancy condo, the nice car, the appearance of success. But Gary's guy ran his financials and found he was leveraged heavily in real estate deals that were underwater. He'd been showing Amanda houses in the $1 million range. She thought she was upgrading to a rich guy who'd give her everything she wanted. Reality was, Brandon was barely staying ahead of his creditors. More importantly, Gary learned through Brandon's social circle, guy's got a buddy who likes to talk at bars apparently, that Brandon thought Amanda was already separated from me. She'd told him we'd been apart since November, that the divorce was almost final, that I'd moved out. Meanwhile, she was sleeping in our bed every night, waking up next to me every morning. Living in the house we shared, spending money from accounts we'd built together. She'd lied to both of us, told me she loved me and would never leave, told him she'd already left, playing both sides, keeping all her options open. When I learned that, I added it to the plan. Brandon would get his own evidence package, delivered at the worst possible moment, during his dinner with Amanda and his family. Let him see, in real time, exactly who he'd been dating. The final week before Valentine's Day was psychological torture. Amanda was relaxed, happy, more affectionate than she'd been in months. She'd initiated sex twice that week, something that hadn't happened in months before that. She was humming while she made coffee in the mornings, smiling at random things on her phone. I knew why. In her mind, this was almost over. She was days away from being free, meeting Brandon's parents on Valentine's Day. That was the final step before she'd probably tell me she wanted a divorce. Or maybe she'd just leave. Pack up her things while I was at work. Leave a note, make it as easy for herself as possible. She thought she was in control. Thought she'd planned everything perfectly. February 13th, the night before, she was extra sweet. She curled up next to me on the couch while we watched some movie I wasn't paying attention to. Her head on my shoulder, like old times. I love you, Chris. You know that, right? I looked down at her, tried to find any trace of the woman I'd fallen in love with 12 years ago. All I saw was a stranger wearing her face. I know. I love you too. Last lie I'd tell her. Last time I'd say those words to someone who'd made them meaningless. That night, I barely slept. Tomorrow, everything would change. Valentine's Day, morning. I woke up before Amanda. The house was quiet. Gray February light filtered through the curtains. I lay there for a minute, looking at the ceiling, thinking about how this was it. The last morning we'd wake up married. The last morning of the life we'd built, however fraudulent it had been. Amanda stirred next to me, rolled over, opened her eyes. For just a second, before she was fully awake, her face was peaceful, almost innocent. Then awareness came back and she smiled at me. Happy Valentine's Day, babe. Happy Valentine's Day. We got up. She made coffee while I scrambled eggs. Normal Sunday morning routine. She talked about her schedule. Said she had to be at the hospital by 6, probably wouldn't be home until after midnight because it was all hands on deck for holiday coverage. The lies came so smoothly. She'd had months of practice. We had breakfast together at the kitchen table. She asked about my day. I said I'd probably just watch basketball, nothing special. She apologized again for having to work. I know it sucks that we can't do anything today. I looked at her across the table, watched her take a sip of coffee, wondered if she had any idea what was about to happen. It's okay, I said. We'll celebrate this weekend. Definitely, she smiled, reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're the best, you know that. I squeezed back, said nothing. She left for work at 5:45 p.m. I watched her from the living room window. She was dressed nice under her scrubs. I could see the edge of a black dress when she moved. The scrubs would come off in her car once she was out of sight of the house. She'd arrive at Maestro's, looking beautiful for Brandon and his family. The girlfriend meeting the parents. Serious relationship milestone. She pulled out of the driveway. Her car turned the corner. Disappeared. I waited 10 minutes. Let myself feel it for one last moment. The ending of everything. Then I made the calls. The movers arrived at 6:15, exactly on schedule. 3 guys, professional crew. I'd hired them through a company that specialized in fast turnarounds. I'd given them a detailed inventory days before. They knew exactly what to pack. I watched them work. Everything from Amanda's closet, the dresses, the shoes, the designer handbag she'd bought with Brandon's money. Everything from her side of the bathroom, makeup, hair products, the expensive skincare routine she'd started in the last few months. Her desk in the spare room where she'd studied for nursing exams years ago. Personal items from around the house, her books, her decorations, photos of her family. They packed it all efficiently, systematically. Our life together disassembled in 90 minutes. I left things that told a story. The sticky notes she'd written me over the years, still stuck to the mirror in our bedroom. Evidence of her deception. Look how sweet I pretended to be, they seemed to say. I kept photos of us together. Not out of sentiment, but for evidence. Proof that she'd been playing devoted wife while planning her exit. The movers loaded everything into their truck. I'd already rented a storage unit in her name. First month paid. After that, her problem. They'd unload everything tonight. Leave it for her to deal with. At 7:15, I texted Gary. It's time. He confirmed. His courier was already en route to Maestro's. I pictured it. Amanda and Brandon at a table with his family, his parents, probably wealthy, judging by Brandon's lifestyle aspirations, maybe his siblings. Everyone dressed nice, fancy steakhouse, wine list thicker than a phone book. Amanda, charming them, making them like her, solidifying her place in Brandon's life. The courier would arrive at 7:30, right when they'd finished appetizers, probably. Starting to relax, guard down. Brandon Mitchell. Brandon would look up, confused. Yes. Delivery for you. Envelope handed over. Courier leaves, and then everything would fall apart. At 7:45, my phone rang. Gary. Package delivered. Want the details? Yeah. Brandon opened it at the table, went white as a sheet. Showed it to Amanda. She started panicking. His mother asked what was wrong. From what my guy observed, he was at a table nearby. Amanda tried to explain, couldn't find words. Brandon stood up, said something like, "You lied about everything," and walked out. Family followed. Left her sitting there alone. I processed that. Amanda, abandoned at a table in a fancy restaurant. Her carefully crafted future, collapsing in real time. Other diners watching, whispering, making assumptions. Good, I said. Process server is in position at your house. Gary continued. Movers are about done. You ready for this? Yeah, I'm ready. I hung up. Sat in my quiet house. My house now, just mine. Waited. Amanda arrived home at 8:41. I wasn't there. I was at Tyler's place, watching from a distance through the security camera I'd installed on our porch the week before. But I heard about it later from the process server. Filled in the gaps. She pulled into the driveway. Got out of her car, probably confused about the moving truck that was just pulling away. Probably thinking maybe I'd bought something, ordered furniture, something innocent. Then she saw the locks were changed. Her key didn't work. The process server stepped forward. Middle-aged woman, professional, unbothered. Amanda Hayes. What is happening? You've been served. Papers handed over. Process server walked away. Job done. Amanda tried her key again. Didn't work. Started panicking. Called me. I watched my phone light up. Let it ring. 14 times that night. Ignored everyone. She stood in our driveway, under the porch light, reading the divorce papers. I could see her on the security camera. Watched her face crumble as she read each page. The adultery claims, the timeline, the financial misconduct, the countersuit for defamation. Every lie exposed, every deception documented. There were attachments. Screenshots of her texts to Julia Brennan, her divorce attorney, claiming I was controlling and abusive. Right next to actual evidence. Texts where she called me naive, told Brandon I had no idea, planned her exit strategy. More attachments. Bank statements showing $18,400 she'd stolen from our joint account. A note from Robert, my attorney. Your belongings are in storage unit 247 at Secure Store on MLK Boulevard. You have the gate code. First month paid. All further communication through attorneys. She texted me. I saved them all. Chris, please answer. This is insane. You're overreacting. We can talk about this. Nothing. I didn't respond. Then when anger didn't work, I'm sorry, please, can we just talk? Still nothing. She called Brandon. He'd blocked her after the restaurant. She didn't know that yet. She found out when his number went straight to a voicemail box that was full. She called her attorney, Julia. 9 p.m. on Valentine's Day. Got voicemail. Left a frantic message. According to Gary's surveillance, I'd asked him to follow her after she left the house, wanted to document everything. She drove to the storage unit. Sat in her car in the parking lot, watching the movers unload her belongings. Her entire life, reduced to boxes and furniture in a concrete unit with a roll-up door. She sat there for an hour, then drove to a hotel. Paid for a room with a credit card that, I later learned, got declined the first time because I'd removed her as an authorized user on my accounts. I spent that evening at Tyler's. Basketball game on TV, pizza, beer. Tyler looked at me at one point. You good, man? I thought about it. Checked my internal temperature. Expected to feel satisfaction, maybe. Vindication, triumph. Instead, I just felt clear, like I'd been carrying around fog for months and someone had finally opened a window. Yeah, I said. I actually am. My phone was face down on the coffee table. It kept buzzing. By the time I checked it before bed, there were 14 missed calls, 31 texts, a voicemail that was just crying. I turned the phone off. Slept better than I had in months. The next day, Amanda met with Julia Brennan. That meeting didn't go well for her. Julia was cold. You lied to me. You told me your husband was emotionally abusive and controlling. These text messages show you were gaslighting him. Amanda tried to explain, tried to minimize it, tried to spin it somehow. I can't represent you anymore, Julia said. This is an ethical violation for me. I'm withdrawing from your case. You can't do this! I can, and I am. You'll receive formal notice. Good luck finding new representation. Amanda left that office in tears. She was on her own. The hospital ethics board received my complaint the same day. Evidence. Timeline showing Brandon as her patient. Discharge date. Relationship beginning same month. Text messages between them. Everything documented. Amanda was called in for a meeting. Did the relationship begin while he was under her care? No, she said. We reconnected months later. But the evidence suggested otherwise. The board suspended her with pay pending investigation. Hospital gossip spreads fast. Within a week, everyone knew Amanda, the ICU nurse who hooked up with her patient. Her reputation at work was destroyed. Co-workers she'd thought were friends stopped talking to her. Her best friend at the hospital, Rachel, cut contact completely. Then there was her family. Amanda's parents, David and Susan Parker, were conservative, traditional people. She had to tell them about the divorce. She tried to spin it. Chris and I grew apart. But Robert, per my instructions, sent them a copy of the divorce filing. They saw everything. The affair, the lies, the financial misconduct, the false abuse claims. Her mother called her. Susan was devastated. "Amanda Marie, how could you do this? You don't understand, Mom. I wasn't happy." "So, you cheated and lied about him being abusive? Do you understand what a serious accusation that is?" Amanda tried to deflect, tried to make excuses. "Your father and I are very disappointed. We need some space." They cut contact. Temporarily, maybe, but the damage was done. Her younger sister Emily stopped responding to texts. The family Amanda had counted on turned their backs. On my side, the reaction was different. I told my mom everything. She was supportive, furious at Amanda. "I never liked how she talked down to you," Mom said, and I realized my family had seen things I'd missed. The little dismissive comments, the way Amanda would roll her eyes at things I said. They'd noticed and hadn't said anything because they didn't want to interfere. My brother Greg was blunt. "Dude, I'm proud of you. You handled that perfectly." My family rallied around me. At Sunday dinner, my 7-year-old niece asked, "Why isn't Aunt Amanda here?" I kept it simple. "Sometimes adults grow apart, sweetie." It hit me harder than I expected. All those family dinners Amanda would miss. All those future moments she'd chosen to give up. Our mutual friend group split. Most sided with me. The evidence was too damning to ignore. A few tried to stay neutral, said they didn't want to pick sides. Amanda lost most of our friends. The Trivia Tuesday group? They kept meeting. I was still invited. Amanda wasn't. She made one social media post. "Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from toxicity." One of our mutual friends, Jessica, commented, "Bold post from someone who cheated." Amanda deleted her Facebook after the comments piled on. She'd lost her digital presence too. 2 weeks after Valentine's Day, Amanda showed up at my office. Security called me. "Your wife is in the lobby and refusing to leave." I went down. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, no makeup, clearly not sleeping. The Amanda I'd known, always put together, always polished, was gone. "Please, Chris, please just talk to me. We have nothing to say to each other. Talk to my attorney." She started crying. Loud, ugly crying. "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking clearly." People in the lobby were watching. I kept my voice calm. "You made calculated decisions for 7 months. You lied to me, gaslit me, stole from me, and tried to ruin my reputation." I know I was confused and stupid, and I'm sorry." Her breathing got rapid. Panic attack. Part of me, the old part that had loved her, wanted to help. Wanted to steady her. Tell her to breathe. Fix it like I'd fixed everything else. I stopped myself. "Security, should we call someone?" The guard asked. "Call her sister, Emily Parker." I gave him the number. Then I walked away. Didn't look back. In the elevator, my hands were shaking. One moment of doubt. Did I go too far? Then I remembered her texts. "He's so naive." I remembered her plan to falsely accuse me of abuse. I remembered her telling Brandon I'd already left when she was still in my bed. The doubt disappeared. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that Brandon had completely ghosted Amanda after that Valentine's dinner. Blocked her on everything. He was back on dating apps within a week. When Amanda tried to contact him through his sister, he refused. He told his friends, "She's crazy, dodged a bullet." So Amanda lost the affair partner, the husband, most of her friends, her parents' approval, and her job security. Everything she'd thought she was building had collapsed. In March, about a month after Valentine's Day, I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, 50-something, kind but direct. First session, I unloaded everything. The betrayal, the gaslighting, the revenge, the guilt I felt about Amanda's breakdown at my office. Dr. Sarah listened. Then she said, "You were betrayed, gaslit, and systematically deceived. Your response was self-protective. But her panic attack. You didn't cause her pain. Her choices did. You simply stopped enabling her lies." That reframed everything for me. Weekly therapy became my anchor point. In April, Amanda's new attorney contacted Robert. She'd found someone willing to take her case, but they advised her to settle. The evidence against her was too strong. The settlement was fair by legal standards, devastating for her by any other. No alimony. The affair forfeited her claim. She had to return the $18,400 she'd transferred. Remaining assets split 50-50. I kept the house. I'd bought it before we were married, my name on the deed. She paid her own legal fees. Robert recommended I drop the defamation countersuit. "You've already won. It'll cost you more in attorney fees than you'll get, and you've made your point." I agreed. I didn't need to financially ruin her. I just needed her to face consequences. The divorce was final, 10 weeks after Valentine's Day. I signed my name on the papers and felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Not sadness for what was, but for what I'd thought we had. That night I cried one more time. Grief for the relationship I'd believed in, the future I'd imagined. Then I woke up the next morning feeling lighter. The hospital ethics investigation concluded in May. Insufficient evidence that the relationship began during patient care, but the scandal had done its damage. Amanda transferred to a different hospital across town. Essentially, a demotion, starting over with no seniority, no reputation. I heard through mutual friends that she was keeping her head down, trying to rebuild. When I got that news, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just nothing. And I realized that was progress. Spring turned to summer. I started doing things I'd neglected during my marriage, things I'd given up without really noticing I was giving them up. Rock climbing. I'd loved it in college, but Amanda always said it was too dangerous. "What if you fall? What if you get hurt?" She made it sound like caring, but really it was control. Control disguised as concern. I joined a gym, started going twice a week. The physical challenge, the problem solving, the focus required. It cleared my head in a way nothing else could. Concerts. I'd stopped going because Amanda hated crowds, hated loud music, hated standing for hours. But I'd always loved live music. That energy you can only get when you're in a room with hundreds of other people, all feeling the same thing. I saw an indie band at a small venue in June, stood in the crowd, let the music wash over me, and felt like myself for the first time in years. I took a weekend trip to Seattle, saw college friends I'd lost touch with. Guys I used to be close to before Amanda's subtle comments made me feel guilty about abandoning her for boys' weekends. We hiked up to Rattlesnake Ledge, grabbed beers at their favorite brewery, talked about everything and nothing. They'd known about the divorce in broad strokes, but I told them the whole story that weekend. "Jesus, Chris," my friend Marcus said. "I always thought you two were solid." "So did I. How are you doing, really?" I thought about it. I'm doing okay. Some days are harder than others, but I'm okay. That was the truth. I was okay. Not great yet, but okay was a start. I redecorated the house, made it mine. The bedroom had been painted this bland beige that Amanda insisted was calming and sophisticated. I painted it a deep blue, moved furniture around, bought new artwork for the walls, stuff I liked, not stuff that matched some aesthetic Amanda had decided on. Small changes, but they mattered. Every time I walked into a room and saw something I'd chosen, something that reflected who I was without compromise, it felt like taking back territory. In June, I adopted Charlie. I'd been thinking about getting a dog for years, but Amanda was allergic, or so she said. I wondered now if that had been another lie, another way to control what we did and didn't do. Charlie was a rescue beagle, 3 years old. One ear that flopped funny because of an old injury. He'd been at the shelter for 8 months. Nobody wanted the dog with the weird ear. I took one look at him and knew he was mine. He became my hiking buddy. Every weekend we'd drive out to the gorge or forest park or sometimes just walk around the neighborhood. He didn't care about my past, didn't judge me for my mistakes, just wanted to be with me. Tail wagging, nose to the ground following whatever scent interested him that day. There's something healing about caring for another living thing that depends on you completely and gives back unconditional love. Coming home to that wagging tail, those excited jumps, that pure happiness, just because I existed. It reminded me that not all relationships are transactions. Some are just genuine. My friends started encouraging me to date. Tyler was especially persistent. "It's been 4 months, man. You should at least download an app or something." "I'm not ready." "You'll never feel ready. Just see what's out there. You don't have to marry anyone. Just coffee, just conversations." I resisted for a while. The thought of trusting someone again, of letting someone in, of being vulnerable, it terrified me. What if I missed the signs again? What if I chose wrong again? What if I was just too stupid or naive to protect myself? But eventually, I downloaded the app. Mostly to get Tyler off my back, if I'm being honest. Swiped through profiles half-heartedly, matched with a few people. Had some conversations that went nowhere. Then there was Olivia, 33, graphic designer. Profile showed her hiking with her dog. Something about her smile seemed genuine. We matched. She messaged first. "Your bio says you're into hiking. What's your favorite trail around here?" Simple question. No games, no mystery, just straightforward communication. We messaged back and forth for a few days. She was funny, easy to talk to. When she suggested meeting for coffee, I almost said no. Then I thought about what Dr. Sarah had said in therapy. You can't let fear of the next bad thing prevent you from experiencing the next good thing. We met at a coffee shop in Hawthorne. I got there early, nervous as hell. When she walked in, she looked like her photos, which was already a good sign, given horror stories I'd heard about dating apps. We talked for 2 hours, about hiking, about work, about Portland, about 100 small things. She made me laugh. Really laugh. Not the polite laugh you do when you're trying to make a good impression. And when she laughed at my jokes, it felt natural. Not like Amanda's strategic arm touches, not like performance. Just real. We went on a second date, then a third. On the third date, we were walking through Laurelhurst Park, and she asked, "So what's your story? I'm guessing there's a recent breakup somewhere in the picture." I could have deflected, could have given her the sanitized version, but something about her directness made me want to match it. Divorced 4 months ago. My ex-wife had an affair, gaslit me for months, tried to claim I was abusive in her divorce strategy. I found out, documented everything, and filed first. It was messy. Olivia didn't flinch. Didn't give me the pitying look people sometimes do when you tell them you've been through something hard. She just nodded. "That sounds awful. I'm sorry you went through that. Thanks, I'm dealing with it. Therapy helps." "Good, therapy is good." She paused. "For what it's worth, you seem pretty well adjusted for someone who went through all that." "I'm working on it." We kept walking. She didn't pry, didn't ask for details, just let me share what I wanted to share and accepted it. We started dating casually after that. No pressure, no rush, no expectations beyond. Let's see where this goes. And it was different. Everything about it was different. When we made plans, she showed up. When she said she'd call, she called. If something came up and she needed to cancel, she told me directly, and we rescheduled. Simple things, basic things, but after months of Amanda's games, basic honesty felt revolutionary. We were taking it slow. No moving in together, no talking about futures, just existing in the present. Learning about each other. Building trust carefully, brick by brick. In August, about 6 months after Valentine's Day, I had a therapy session with Dr. Sarah that stuck with me. "Have you forgiven her?" she asked. I sat with the question. "I don't know. Do I have to?" Forgiveness is for you, not her. It's not about saying what she did was okay. It's about releasing the anger so it doesn't poison everything else in your life. I don't think I'm angry anymore, not like I was. "What do you feel when you think about her?" I considered it. Mostly, nothing. Sometimes sad, but not for what I lost. Sad for what I thought I had that was never real, like grieving a person who never existed. Dr. Sarah nodded. That's a kind of forgiveness, not the reconciliation kind, the release kind. So I have to say I forgive you for it to count. No. You just have to stop letting it control you. Stop letting her have power over your present. Stop wondering what you could have done differently. Stop replaying the betrayal. Just let it be something that happened, not something that defines you. I thought about that for weeks. Did I forgive Amanda? I didn't wish her harm. I didn't spend my nights thinking about revenge anymore. When her name came up in conversation, I felt distant from it, like talking about someone I used to know years ago. Maybe that was forgiveness. Or maybe it was just moving on. Either way, it felt like progress. 1 year later, I woke up on Valentine's Day morning. Exactly 1 year since everything had exploded. I took a moment to reflect. A year ago, I was executing the most calculated divorce of my life. Cold, strategic, hurt, buried under layers of planning. Now I was peaceful, healing, building something new. I was spending the day with Olivia. We'd been together 6 months, still taking it slow, but it felt right. We had simple plans, dinner at a quiet restaurant, nothing fancy. I didn't need grand gestures anymore, just honesty. Around that same time, I heard an update through Emily, Amanda's sister. Emily had reached out to me a few months earlier to apologize for how everything went down, to say she hadn't known about the affair and felt terrible. Through Emily, I learned Amanda was still at the new hospital, keeping a low profile. She'd reconciled with her parents, slowly. She was in therapy, too. She was single, not dating, just trying to put her life back together. Emily told me Amanda had asked about me. "How is Chris?" "He's doing well," Emily said. "Better than well." Amanda's response. "Good. He deserved better than what I gave him." First sign of real accountability I'd heard from her. I acknowledged it when Emily told me, but I didn't need it. My healing had never depended on Amanda's apology. During spring cleaning that year, I found an old box I'd shoved in the back of a closet. Inside was one of Amanda's sticky notes from years ago. "You make every day better. HOS. I stared at it for a long time. Wondered if she'd meant it back then. Decided maybe she had once. People change. They lose themselves. They make terrible choices. It didn't excuse what she did. But maybe it explained it. I threw the note away. Not with anger, just release. It was part of a past that didn't define me anymore. A few weeks after that, I was hiking with Charlie in the gorge, watching the sunset over Portland. I thought about the whole journey, the pain of betrayal, the cold satisfaction of revenge, the long, slow road of healing. If I could go back, would I do it differently? No, I protected myself, stood up for myself, did it the right way, legally, with evidence, no violence, no threats. I made her face consequences she'd engineered herself. But here's what I learned. The revenge didn't actually heal me. What healed me was time, therapy, rebuilding trust in myself, learning to be whole alone before adding another person to my life. The revenge gave me justice, closure, a sense of control. But healing, that was harder work, slower work, work that had nothing to do with Amanda and everything to do with me. Charlie barked at a squirrel, pulling me back to the present. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Simple moment, beautiful moment. She used to say I'd never leave her, that I was too weak, too dependent, too naive to make it on my own. She was wrong about all of it. I didn't just leave. I rebuilt myself into someone who won't accept crumbs disguised as love. Someone who knows the difference between kind and weak, between trusting and blind. And honestly, that's the best revenge of all.